and welcome back to Real Estate Renovators. For those who are just tuning in and you don't know, Real Estate Renovators is the business advisory show for real estate professionals.
You got it right.
I know, it's one of the first times that just flowed off the tongue, Chanel. Well done.
Can we say it's like the fourth take on this?
I don't think the fourth take was my fault.
No, you got it right every time, to be fair. You got it right every
Anyway,
time.
boys, stop distracting the main host, please.
Yes.
Without further ado, I'd like to present my co-hosts. If you just tuned in and you're trying to figure out who these two gentlemen are, we've got the Persian princess, Mr. Rexy Afrasiabi, to the right.
And you got my surname. You pronounced my surname right.
Well, we'd hope so after 10 episodes and 55 takes, wouldn't we?
This is true. How are you, Chanel?
I'm well, Rexy. How are you?
I'm super pumped about today.
I'm pumped too.
I'm actually also excited. Have you seen how Bill looks today?
Bill, I haven't even got to introduce him because our audience, again, we have to continue to let our audience know it's not Jason Statham. Bill,
difficult.
Nikolouzakis, blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God, you got mine.
Yes, I nailed it.
You got my name right as well. Amazing. You're just so good at this now.
I'm extremely
such a
eloquent.
professional.
Thank you. How are we, Bill?
I'm really good. And as Rex said, made the extra effort today with the old dress because.
Can we tell the audience why? What happened when you interviewed our guest?
Okay, so very quickly, today's episode, as I'm sure you know, is Mike Green. And Mike Green's one of the most experienced heads in real estate in Australia. I've met him a couple of times over Zoom, but never face to face. And I was a little bit nervous, and I don't get nervous too often, as you guys know. I was a little bit nervous to meet him, and I walked in and I was wearing just an open shirt. It was from Brisbane. And I walked in for the interview and he said to me, "Bill, would you like to borrow one of my ties?" And I was taken back a little bit, but of course it was complete banter.
I love how he just rocks up wearing a t-shirt like he's fucking Mark Zuckerberg. Pipe down, you're not Mark Zuckerberg, you're Steve Jobs.
He was actually an absolute legend about it. He was just having a laugh with me and putting me on the spot, but it was heaps of fun, and he was everything you'd expect him to be. It was awesome. It was an awesome interview.
And Bill didn't realize we're shooting Mike today or right now, so he actually did a wardrobe change before this as well.
I did. I was actually in a t-shirt and a jacket and on a quick dress change just for Mike Green.
We've really stepped it up a notch for this particular guest, and why wouldn't me? I mean, in 25 years of experience in the real estate industry, one of the most experienced real estate professionals in Australia. Mike Green, for those who don't know, basically is the owner of Harcourts International and the managing director of Harcourts until 1999. He operated and directed the Harcourts franchise to where it is today, with over 10,000 people in 9 countries. He's now the executive director of operations and he leads the strategic initiatives for the global network. So quite a phenomenal guest. So no wonder you stepped it up and top-notch outfit today, Bill. But without further ado, guys, let's introduce our interview with Bill and Mike Green.
So Mike Green, thank you very much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Brilliant. Well, everyone's very excited to have you on the show today.
I hope I don't let you down, Bill.
Oh, no, I'm sure you won't. You're one of the most experienced heads in Australian real estate and New Zealand real estate. So the first question we're going to ask you is, how have you seen real estate change over the years, and has it changed for the better?
Yeah, but interesting question when you first sort of suggested maybe that one, because I thought about it, and the obvious, or part of the obvious answer is real estate's changed hugely. If you look back, I've been 40 odd years now, and from when we started to where we are today is manifestly different. And yet the other side of that coin is that real estate hasn't changed at all. The basics are the basics. It's a people business. It's about the relationships you build. It's very much a one-on-one, belly-to-belly business, and that hasn't changed. What has changed, though, I think, is the industry far more professional. I think we've got more tools now than we've ever had, which at times can be a bit overwhelming and actually causes probably a degree of frustration. But we have more tools now than we've ever had for nurturing client relationships, for operating our businesses, for making sure that we focus on our key strengths and do those things well. So I think there's an awful lot of technology and communication change. Legislative change obviously has impacted us in lots of different ways with privacy and a whole lot of stuff, the whole digital data, and that's created a whole lot of change. So there's been massive change, and yet I think people have, within the industry have got to be really careful that the industry is still the same as it always was. It's about people dealing with people, and it's about good people with integrity, giving good advice and helping people through, often the biggest decision that they ever make in their lives. And we're very privileged to be involved in that. And I think it's a huge responsibility. So we can never lose sight of people. And that's really what it's about. And I think at times we get sidetracked, all this prop tech, and I shouldn't give you a slap, but people get they spend their lives trying to find the newest, latest silver bullet that's going to change their business and their lives and all that. And the simple reality is there isn't one. There's lots of different things you can use and you can be more effective and more efficient. But at the end of the day, it's about who you are as a person and how you connect with other people. So I think, long answer to a short question, I think the industry's changed massively, and yet it hasn't changed at all. And if we can stay focused on what we actually do, then I think that's where our most successful people are. They're not sitting behind computer screens all day long. They're not doing all these other things. They are simply talking to more people, providing outstanding service, great advice, caring, just doing the professional things that a real estate agent should do.
Yeah, it's funny, my role at PropTech Group, obviously we're a technology company, but we always say that technology is the means to the end, not an end in itself.
Exactly.
And it's all about giving agents more time to do that personalized one-on-one service, right? Technology should just help them do the easy stuff so they can spend more time doing the important stuff.
Yeah, we talk about technology being an enabler. It should enable us to be better, to be more effective and more efficient, but it's never going to sell a house.
No, exactly. And just going on the people aspect,
Sure.
has the industry seems like it's changed, but it stayed the same at the same time. What we're trying to do is the same.
Yes.
But what about the people involved? Obviously, the people have changed because time's passed. But has the profile of an agent changed?
Yes, I think no, I don't know if it has. I think one of the interesting things about real estate is you've got every type of variation in the business in terms of people. Some very young people, admittedly, the young ones that I look at now, it's a different perspective. They look like they're 12, but you have some very young people that do exceptionally well. And then you've got, one of our top guys is over 80 and still doing a great job. So there's a wide variety of age. There's a wide variety of background and cultural background and diversity. So there is no sort of stereotypical real estate agent. It's more the behaviours and the traits of the person. So I don't think that's changed over the years. I think, as I said before, the professionalism has certainly risen. So whereas not many people leave school and say, I'm going to be a real estate agent, certainly 30, 40 years ago, it was sort of a secondary occupation. It was the one you did when you got made redundant or you didn't know what to do, or sales was your thing. I think there are more and more people now that see it as a viable career, and I think that's a great thing. I think the industry's worked really hard to try and foster an impression that we are actually a profession and that we actually are professional people and that we have integrity. And one of the challenges we have is you only ever hear about the handful of bad experiences people have, or the rogue agents that clean their trust accounts out or whatever, and that's front page news, another real estate agent. So we've been maligned as an industry for many, many years. But I think as we've become more professional, as we've attracted perhaps people that may not have necessarily come into the industry in the past, but now see it as a viable opportunity, I think that's lifted the whole perception of real estate agents. Yeah. And I guess the travesty or the challenge for us, 90% of the time, the clients we deal with are thrilled and have a great experience, love what we do, and really do appreciate what we've done to help them. But you don't really hear about the 90% or even the 95%. It's always that little percent that go badly wrong, and not always our fault, but sometimes clearly it is. Every industry has the that element. They're the ones you hear all about, and I think we get tarred a little bit with that, when really the vast majority of real estate people are dedicated, committed. They have integrity, they work really hard for their clients, they really care, and they get great results. And as I said to you earlier, we're privileged because we work with people most of the time who are going through significant moments in their lives. And buying or selling a home, most people don't do that often. And so it's a major financial decision. It's normally their greatest asset. And we get to help them through that. And so, we have a huge responsibility, but we have this opportunity to really help people. And in the vast majority of cases, I think we do. Yeah.
And I certainly think that the real estate agent's becoming certainly more professional and more as an advisor rather than just as a salesperson, and that's a great thing, I think. And most professional services businesses have to move to that to be relevant moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, we've talked a little bit about the past. How about the future? What's the next 5-10 years look like in real estate?
That's a really interesting question, and if I really knew the answer, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. It's a difficult one because we're in massive change. I mean, the last 2 years with the pandemic, it's something I don't think very many of us have ever experienced, and it's changed what we're doing hugely. We've had to pivot. We're doing a huge amount of auctions online now. People buying property that have never seen it. All our awards functions have been through Zoom for a period of time. We've got offices that haven't been open for quite some time, and people working from home. So you've had that whole shift, and that's who'd have thought 2 and a bit years ago that we'd be going through this and having to do that. And it's been interesting, some of the other shifts that are happening, because initially it was sort of, oh, this is quite cool, and Zoom, and we changed, and your uncertainty around the pandemic isn't helpful, but we pivoted, and our Melbourne offices, for instance, have just been going gangbusters, online auctions, and they've really done a great job and stepped up what they've done. But now we're seeing almost a bit of a reverse. People are tired of the work from home and tired of the lack of people connection. We've had a few live events, which we couldn't take everyone that wanted to come. They were so excited just to get back together and have that connection. And I think when you look at the industry going forward, it's one of the undeniable, I think, foundational pieces. It's about people. And we've seen different models where they've tried to do it online, and they've had online negotiation, and you don't have to talk to anyone and buy a house, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And part of it is the transaction is so far normally between for most people. So I might buy and sell a house every 7 to 10 years. So it's not like going down and buying a computer or going down to the grocery store once a week. A very different transaction. So when I approach it, people say, oh, you can get everything you need online. You can get all the information, do it yourself, all that stuff. People don't want to do that. No. There's too much at stake. It's too far between the transactions. I want someone who can guide me through it and really help me and give me the best advice and all that stuff. And so when you look at the future, and prop tech's exploding, we've seen that. The pandemic has driven us even further towards it. But I still think the fundamentals moving forward aren't going to change. And there'll be new tech, and there'll be new ways of doing things. And, we see in a really good market, and I've seen 3 or 4 of them now where the markets have gone gangbusters, and you see all these new business models pop up, and the next best thing, and there's and I'm not going to name any of the individuals at the moment, but we in the industry, who they are, and they've popped up, and it's, oh, you can do this from home, and, you can just do this, and it's great. And they do it when the market's flying, because, you turn up and smile, and you can sell real estate. And then we see the market shift, and of course a lot of them just disappear. And so I think, and what that tells me is that the basic fundamentals of real estate don't change. How we do it might, and tech certainly is changing it. So if you look at the next 10 years, I think the basic fundamentals don't change. It's people talking to people, getting advice, being guided through that transaction. So that doesn't change. I think, though, one of the real core elements, and I'd be interested in sort of exploring this a bit, is the data side. Because I think as real estate people, traditionally, we've known the data's important, but we've not really known what to do with it. And in the past, we've given it to third-party providers for different things, who have then in turn packaged it up and sold it back to us. And I think there really needs to be a shift in our industry where we control our own destiny by controlling our own data. And it's a big one, because we're real estate agents, and that's what we do, and we're good at that, and we focus on that. And it's a very specialist area, and I mean, better than I, building data lakes and doing all these things that are so critical is not something you just do, out of fun and fancy. It's a really specialist area. But I think as an industry, we need to take more control, and we need to look at what we're doing with our data, where we're putting it, who we're letting use it, who we're giving access to it, and really take control, because it's one of the greatest assets we have, and yet we don't utilize it. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because data, I mean, Facebook is a data business. We all know that now. We learned that with Cambridge Analytica and the like, that they've sold our data back to us and made billions of dollars. But I think data for a real estate agent especially is not only will it help you build a more efficient business, make it more profitable and the like, but it'll also provide a better customer experience by knowing, when you have to pick up the phone and you're actually talking to someone that from the data actually wants to buy or actually wants to sell. That's a better experience than calling someone that doesn't want to buy or sell for the customer, not only for the agent. So you have to make less calls, but also the client doesn't have to hear from you when he doesn't want to, right? So data is such an important piece to play. And, as you said, real estate agents have got so much of that data. Speaking of...
And I think we have the key thing that I think we underestimate, is that we have the most up-to-date live data there is. So, the value of general stuff normally is 2 to 3 months old. There are very few places you can get data that's live, like right now. And, a lot of the homes that we are listing and selling, they've been renovated, they've been changed multiple times. So a lot of the old, even Google Earth, what have you, a lot of the photos are just old and don't actually, don't reflect what the home's like now. So one of the huge advantages we have is we have huge numbers of people out on the market every day taking photos, getting information on properties and our clients that's as up-to-date as you can find anywhere, and that's actually miles more up-to-date than most. So we have a distinct advantage, and it's utilising the data, utilising that advantage that we've got to actually grasp, and I'm going to use this platform to push this a bit. We started an organisation here in Australia 5 years ago now called REIP, R-E-I-P, Real Estate Industry Partners. We were looking at portals at that stage, and that was that eternal cycle of the industry trying to do its own portal that never worked. And there's lots of reasons why it didn't work. But what has come out of this is REIP have stayed together. We've worked really hard, and through the pandemic we were able to really support and help lots of people in the industry in terms of how you adapt to what's going on, how you best look after your people, look after your business. We've had quite a bit of influence with government in terms of some of the rules around what we could do during lockdowns and what have you, which obviously has helped the industry. But the longer term goal of REIP is to provide strong leadership for the industry that's about the industry, and things like data, making sure data is at the centre of what we do and taking control of it for the industry, not for a profit, not for a commercial undertaking, but for our industry. And if we can give it back, package it up, give it back at no cost to the industry, it's going to help. REIP's has 5 key foundational pieces. Welfare of the industry is one of them. Our suicide rates, the stress that real estate agents have been under has gone up, as it has for most people. So how do we better deal with that? How do we provide the support for the industry at times where it's really tough? The financial profitability of offices and individuals. One of our major focuses is to help our real estate businesses, irrespective of branding and group and independent, but help all real estate businesses be more profitable. Because if they're more profitable, obviously people are achieving their goals and building great lives, but they're also in a much better position to provide more support and resources, and so a really viable, profitable real estate business is a really important part of our economy. So there are a couple of the major points, the relevance of the industry, the PR around the industry. As I said before, we see a lot of negativity. We should be out there telling everyone about the good things and the good stories and where we've really made a difference and helped people. So REIP is a body that is absolutely committed to bringing the leadership in Australia together, to have a focus on the industry as opposed to just, the REIs around the country in the main do a great job. The REIA, the Real Estate Institute of Australia, is our national leadership body, but they have a very singular or simple view of what their role is, and they see it more around government and legislation, and that's a huge, important part. But the welfare of the industry and the profitability and the relevance and the PR and profile are huge parts of what we need to focus on. And I don't think right now, we don't believe that there has been that focus. And so REIP is something that we're passionate about. A lot of industry leaders are involved with. We want to grow that because we want to take control of our data. We want to make sure that we're relevant. We want to look after the people in the industry.
Yeah. It's funny that technology conversation we're having and with REIP, it's all about people, right? Yes. It's all about how can we get the best for our people in the industry, but also clients. And we're not in the metaverse yet, as I'm sure Zuckerberg wants us to be, but we're not in there yet. And when we're selling houses, you're dealing with people and the agents of people, and agents work a lot of hours. It's a very stressful role. So anything we can do to help that industry is commendable. So it's great that initiative is great that you guys are doing. Now, Harcourts is not only huge in Australia and New Zealand, but you've got global presence in Canada, South Africa, Indonesia. What makes a great Harcourts real estate agent?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And again, I wish I knew the answer to that one. I think that in terms of agents, it's, there's as we said earlier, there's massive diversity in who the successful agents are, and they come from all sorts of backgrounds and what have you. So it's really hard to quantify. I think, there's some common traits. Great agents are competitive. Great agents are compassionate. They do care. You hear, stories, but the really great agents really do care, and they're focused on outcomes for clients, not on commissions. So there's some basic traits, but it's hard to say what a great agent is. In terms of business owners and the guys running the businesses, one of the challenges we've had as an industry is it's sort of been, it's almost like an expectation. You get to a certain point, you should step into business ownership. That's the next logical step up, if you like. But being a business owner and running a team and managing a team and growing a business is so different to being a top performing agent. They're quite uniquely different things, and so they require different skills and different mindsets, and so very often we've had really good agents go into business and realize that being a business owner is not their strength, and it costs them in their own performance and production, as well as they don't necessarily deliver on the role of a business owner as well as they could. And that's a challenge for our industry, and it has been for many years. So I think one of the things that we try and focus on is obviously, having top performing people involved is important to grow presence and profile, but making sure that the person that wants to run the business and be the business owner understands what that means and has a different skill set. And it's all about selflessness. As a business owner, it's all about your people and their success, and that's the sort of person we look for. Business acumen and skills is really important, but understanding the difference, it's all about your people's success, and that's our best business owners. They're the ones that focus on their team, provide outstanding environments for their team, constantly giving them all the support and backing and help that they can, and it's more important to the business owner that their team succeed than they succeed. And ultimately, if you take that approach, excuse me, then you become enormously successful anyway by creating that environment. So the best business owners are the ones that absolutely understand that. And it is a challenge. Anyone will tell you, running a business, you've got a whole lot of different dynamics, with people and just the commercial realities and the legislative stuff and the things you've got to be aware of and financial. There's a whole raft of things, and that takes a different skill set from being a top performing agent.
Yeah, certainly, and in any services industry like this, being that servant leader, wanting your team to succeed first and foremost is so vital. So, and
you're right, and you hear that and you see that, the servant leadership model, but the vast majority don't do that. It's because it's so they've come up through an industry where they've been competitive, where they've been driven, they've been doing all these things, and then we get to servant leadership, and it's like a huge chasm to cross. So for a lot, it's hard to do that. But the ones that do and that have, can harness the competitiveness and what have you with servant leadership actually do a wonderful job.
Yeah, it's competitiveness is not a dirty word, right? It's good to be competitive, but you can do it in the right way, empathetically, and to help for the greater good of your team, right? So that's definitely something that can be done. Harcourts has got such a great brand and such a big market share in Australia and New Zealand especially. Why do you think so many people have chosen Harcourts?
It's a good question. I think if you look at groups or independents or the industry, and especially now, the stuff, the CRMs, all that, you can get that now anywhere. You guys obviously provide a raft and a range of really quality products and things that anyone can, use. So it's become less important or less compelling, the stuff. But it's certainly become more important, I think, and especially in the last few years, it's more about community. It's the community you're in. So we've always focused very hard at Harcourts around culture, and we hear that word a lot, and everyone has got a culture. It's whether by design or by accident, but we've worked really hard at that. So we've got some base principles, our vision, our values that are very widely read, and if you go into any of our offices, 99% have the values on the wall, and that's not something that we've mandated or told them to do or whatever. It's because the people that are attracted to that sort of environment love that sort of thing and put it up there, and it becomes a key part of what they do. So I think there's a whole lot of fundamentals that have grown culture. You know, we're privately owned. There's R&I and our business partner Paul, and been privately owned all the time. So that adds a different dynamic. And all three of us have been in real estate long term. I went in when I started when I was 19.
Just a few years ago, Mike.
It was, yes, it was. It feels like a few now. Excuse me. Paul went into real estate when he was 23, and Irene was in real estate when she was 26 or 7, I think. So we're long-term real estate people, privately owned company, and that makes a difference. You know, our decision making isn't driven by return on investment or shareholder expectations or any of that sort of stuff. It's very much driven by what's the best for our people and what's the best for this group. And I think that culture is the defining part for Harcourts. And you know, people come to our events, our awards functions, and say, "Wow, I've never felt this," where everyone in the room's cheering for everyone else. And it manifests itself in many ways. We have annual conferences, HX we call them, 3 days, and all of our suppliers, and no doubt you'll be at our one in May. But the suppliers often make the comment, "Gee, we've been to a lot of different functions and events, never felt spirit and you know, the culture is strong as we've felt here." So that in the end is our primary difference. It's decision making around people. It's focusing on values. We're really clear on our vision, really clear on what that needs to be, and that's what drives our culture.
Yeah, and I've got to say, from a supplier's perspective, you guys are always on the front foot, and especially with technology, to make sure that you're doing the absolute best you can by the best technology without making it the singular focus, but moving forward with
it's like, I mean, we're obviously involved right now with the rollout of Vault across New Zealand, Australia, and that's massive. 600 plus offices that are changing their operating system. So, and that's not something that you can do just sort of throw it at them and good luck and the help desks there, give them a ring, like you can't. And we've got a team, as you well know, in-house now that's purely there for the transition, project management. We've got the help desk that's there, excuse me, on top of our corporate team that have been trained up so they can go out and support. And our belief, it's about the people. We've got to guide the people through this. We've got to make it as easy and painless as we can, because it is a significant change. And most people, there are very few people like change. We all struggle a bit with it. So we've got to make sure that our people feel the least amount of pain on the way through, and it doesn't disrupt their businesses or their lives. And that's our focus. So that's why we've invested heavily in the people on the ground to actually do this. And I guess that just reflects the focus, our first value, people first. And so it's got to be about that. We've got to make sure that when we get to the end of this, there'll be glitches. I mean, there always are. You guys never give us anything that's 100% right. We're always going to have a problem. But often it's how you fix it, how quick you react to it, how you get through it that makes a difference. So, hopefully we'll get to the end of this year, we'll have 600 officers moved across. And the general experience will be a good one, and they'll be enjoying the new systems and all the benefits that brings, and hopefully the focus that we've had on people throughout the year will get us through that.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and it goes back to, you've mentioned it a few times now, that value of people first. I think that's our values are very much aligned in that respect, and that's probably why we're doing so much business together. That's PropTech, not Real Estate Renovators, but Real Estate Renovators, our values are aligned as well. And for all the Real Estate Renovators, I'd like to say thank you very much, Mike, for taking the time out. It's been so good to have you on here. We're also excited to have you on, and I'm sure all the viewers will be as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
What a man. That was excellent. What do you think, Maxine?
I really liked it. Like the things he talks about, it is a service business at the end of the day. It is a privilege to be serving customers. It's one of the biggest transactions of their lives. And as much as technology does assist you, end of the day, it's a people's business. And
absolutely.
You're buying a house at the moment, so you would have seen firsthand what a customer experience on this is.
It's really interesting. I mean, obviously I'm speaking to real estate agents all day. That's what I do for a living, essentially, and I can identify a good agent in an interview. But it's not until I've really gone through this process in buying a house that I've experienced agents. I reckon I've looked at about 15 to 20 homes and dealt with 15 to 20 different agents. And I can tell you right now, the level of service from particular agencies far outweighs the level of service from other agencies. So flipping it over and actually being part of their, I am their market now, and I'm dealing with them as people. I can tell you right now, how you hire your people and the people in your business will determine success. It's not just technology, but the level of service, I think people forget that there are other people on the other side of it, and it's not a transactional approach. It's really getting to know the person. Do you agree?
Yeah, look, definitely. And when you've got a leader like Mike Green who talks about being privileged to serve his clients, talks about the people in the industry and how he's trying to improve the industry, that permeates through the culture of a company. And that's why Harcourts, or probably one of the reasons why Harcourts has been so successful.
I could not agree more. I mean, we've dealt with a lot of Harcourts business owners as clients, both Rex and I. I think there's a very common theme with the business owners.
Their cultures are very similar. Their franchisees are similar. They're all bought into the culture of Harcourts. It's not just a franchise; it's a culture in itself.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been privy to go to their quarterly awards and some of their annual awards, and it's not just a culture, it's a real culture. It's a family feel franchise. And when you work in that business, you really feel like you're part of something. What he has created is quite phenomenal. And I think, a lot of business owners in particular can take a lot from this episode in how to understand that real estate is a people business and the importance of a culture.
And what also he mentioned, in addition to culture, is about technology being an enabler, enabling agents to do what they need. And, Bill, you're the technology guru.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of their technology, obviously a prop tech group. And, I love the way they go about it, because even us at prop tech group, we're a technology company, but we say that technology is not the end in itself, it's the means to the end. And it's all about how you can help agents do the menial tasks that aren't really important, and then frees up the time to do what is really important. That's that one-on-one time with your vendor or with your buyer to provide that higher level of service and that better overall experience.
Absolutely. And I think that's what Mike Green talks about in this interview. The real estate industry has changed a lot, but then again, it hasn't really changed at all. It's always going to be a people business. Anyway, enough banter from us. Let's keep watching the rest of the episode with Mike Green.
Now, I know you loved that Mike Green episode so much, Chanel, but it's actually the end of the episode now.
I thought there was a part B because there was so much information
There was a lot
to get.
in there, but that's it.
Well, we hope you have enjoyed this episode with Mike Green, and we'll see you next time on Real Estate Renovators. Oh, why did no one else wave?
Bye, guys.